Maria, you can unmute yourself.
Keep making that mistake. Hi, my name is Maria Acevedo. I am in Austin, and I belong to bilingual ladies Toastmasters.
Yes.
And I'm here. I signed up to be the VP for Public Relations, and I'm trying to get ideas on how to promote our group, especially nowadays that we have to do it over social media. And I'm looking forward to learn as much as I can. Well, nice to meet you all.
Excellent, Maria. And actually, I'm glad you said something about social media. I know there's a session after this. However,
Okay.
Design-wise, we're going to talk a lot about design today. So that's really important for social media. So I'm glad you're here.
Okay.
Victoria, I can see you next. So you don't mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself, what club you're with, and how long you've been in Toastmasters?
Hi, I'm Victoria Pilsner. I'm currently with Georgetown, Texas Toastmasters. I started with West Austin 2 Toastmasters back in 2008 and was with that club for about 3 years, and I've been with Georgetown about 1.5 years. I'm also the VP of Public Relations for my club, and I also need to have assistance with social media and promoting our club. And I look forward to meeting more Toastmasters and this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a frame for Claude, but I'm not sure if Claude is with us at this point. If you could unmute yourself, Claude, and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Claude Howard. I am with Club 423, the Texas State Talkers here in Austin, Texas. And I've been with Toastmasters for almost 2 years now. And one of the things that I hope to gain from this session really is just better ways to use media with speeches, because I feel like you can always improve on whatever base you have. So
thank you so much for being here. Now I'm seeing another, is it Karen Dobson?
I was the one who jumped in over our Karen, also Karen Wentz. So
okay, so it's Karen. Okay, there you are. I thought I saw a different angle to you, but that's what threw me off. But you know how in Zoom your frames sometimes jump around?
Exactly.
So came on twice.
Oh, right. Thank you. I'm done.
You're welcome. Shirley, I only see one Shirley.
Hi, I'm Shirley Mobley from Temple, Texas, about an hour north of Austin, and I belong to 3 clubs, Big T, Vocal Aces, and Elite Toastmasters. I've been in Toastmasters for probably about 7 years now as a distinguished Toastmaster, and I love PowerPoint. So I wanted to learn more about another way in which I might create, especially JPEGs, and just I've been doing a lot of PowerPoint presentations, especially with Zoom, because I can share my screen.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I would look to you and your tips as well. Thank you so much. Nancy, how are you? Do you mind unmuting yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I'm Nancy Graves. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm a member of several clubs here, president of High Noon, which is my original club, vice president of membership, and also area director for F24. So I just need to be able to promote things, and I'm looking forward to learning.
Excellent, thank you for being here. Phil, I see you next. If you could unmute yourself.
Hi there. I'm Phil Neal. I'm the president of Gavel Masters in San Antonio. Looking forward to the class.
Great city. Thank you for being here. Jill, good to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you, Carlos? Nice.
I'm doing well.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and I belong to 3 clubs. One of them is NTL Advanced in Greenbelt, Maryland. The other is Talk for Change in Washington, D.C. And I belong to one new club since the pandemic that's in Los Angeles, and that's called Toastmasters.
Oh, wow. Excellent. That's excellent. And I know that you love theater, so Story Masters must be something that you get to practice some of your skills.
Yeah, it's a really good club. I joined today because I feel like I know a lot about PowerPoint, but I know you know so much more about technology than I do, so I'm sure I'm going to learn something.
All right. Well, I will turn to you as well in case I miss something. So the next person I see is it Miriam? If you could unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm with Winner's Circle in District 29. And I signed up on Friday, so I'm a new member.
Oh, wow. Welcome. Welcome. Excellent. And I love the fact that you just jump in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I joined one meeting and I was like, I want to try this, and that's why I'm here.
Wonderful.
And
Welcome.
I saw the webinar opportunity. In terms of what I hope to gain, I haven't used PowerPoint in a long time, and I usually use Keynote, so I'm curious about what's changed.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for.
And I know I'm going to mispronounce it, so I apologize. Is it Ashgar? Ashgar?
It's Mariam Irshad.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Irshad. Thank you. Then I see Isis.
Hi, yes, this is Isis. I'm part of the Speech Masters Club in Austin, and I've been in Toastmasters just a few months. And I hope to gain a little bit more understanding of how to use PowerPoint in my speeches.
Wonderful, thank you. The next person I see in the frame is it Shruti? And I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing it. Shruti Saxena? Saxena?
Hi, my name is Shruti Saxena, and I'm with the Capital Ridge Orators here in Austin. I also mostly use Keynote, but it's always good to learn more about presentations, and the tricks can always be applied from one application to the other. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And then Connie, I see you.
Good evening, Carlos. My name is Connie Hoffman. I've been in Toastmaster for over 20 years. I am a member of TechStot Toastmasters there in Austin. And with COVID, I decided with the isolation and no travel and working from home, I joined 2 more clubs, and I'm mentoring 2 clubs. So I attend several clubs a week, and I decided to give back. And so in bilingual, I had Spanish in high school. So, why not relearn things and keep your mind active? I've met Carlos, and he's a fabulous, I learned so much from him. And so I decided to join his session tonight and learn some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Good to see you. And then I'm going to mispronounce this name, I'm sure. Is it Asghar Noor?
Yeah.
If you could unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sir? Yeah. Hi, I'm Ashkar Noor. I'm here from Adam Speaker Series in Starling, Virginia. Quite a bit far from Austin, Texas. I know Austin is a beautiful city. I've never been there, but I have other parts of the Texas. So one of these days, maybe I'll come and visit Austin too.
Absolutely. It is a beautiful city, a very special place.
And the cost of living is cheaper over down there than Washington, D.C. metro area.
I don't know. Very good. Thank you for being with us. And I see Scott Mallory
from other places, and they especially from Washington D.C. area too. They're moving back to Austin, and there's the cost of living is cheaper over down there.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I have been with the Toastmaster for a long time. I even forgot what it is. I was the of the Adam Speaker Series, and I've been with this group for a long time.
Great.
Now, in terms of the presentation, well, I have to make a lot of presentation. A lot of the PowerPoint, I use it. But sometimes I use it in a strategic way. Sometimes I use it as an informational way. So I wanted to see how you are using it, some of the nuggets and tips that you are going to share with us today, because I think there is a lot of learning. I can also learn a lot because sometimes I kind of bombard people with things and then realize that maybe I should have gone a little more slower speed, or content should have been a lot less. And so those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. I want to also learn how do you effectively use color to highlight points, and how do you keep spaces so that you kind of do not take over the entire presentation. If you have too many words in the presentation, people get completely lost, then they won't listen to me anyway.
Okay.
How do you create that balance between the information that you present in the PowerPoint on a specific slide and leave out a lot of cases so that you can explain or make your point for forwarded agenda? Thank you.
We'll definitely touch upon that. Then Scott, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes, Scott Mallory, Laughing Matters in Austin. I've been a Toastmasters 8 years and just wanted to learn more about PowerPoint for speeches.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Is it Gina or is it Lai?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Lee. I'm
Gina.
in Herndon, Fairfax. I'm in a corporate cup for 8 years. Just recently got my DTM. I joined this to learn more about PowerPoint from Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. And I see Linda.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I'm Linda Joe. I'm in Fairfax area, Fairfax, Virginia. I'm very happy to be here tonight to learn some tricks about the PowerPoint. I have a basic knowledge of a PowerPoint, but I just want to learn more to make it really eye-catching and succinct and short. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. I see Veronica.
Hi, I'm Veronica Gottlieb, and I belong to Get Up to Speak Toastmasters here in San Antonio. I've been with Toastmasters for 14 years now, and I am a chemist by nature. And so a lot of times we have technical presentations to give. And so a lot of times with technical presentations, there's rules and regulations. So how do you place that type of information into a PowerPoint so that you don't have so many words on one slide? And then just to learn, in addition to that, in my volunteer role, I also work with our church, and since we're now in this virtual arena, we tend to use PowerPoint a lot to get our announcements out and things like that. So how to effectively display that information in a way that's eye-capturing to our members and to others.
Excellent. And you guys are setting up the session so well for me. I really appreciate it because I hear you and I want to make sure I touch upon a lot of the things you're talking about. So I see Lily.
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Great. I am Lily Andrus, I am from West Austin 2, and I'm super excited to learn how to work better with PowerPoint. Thank you so much for hosting this tonight.
You're very welcome. And I know that Kathy is capturing all the names of people who registered, so you will get a copy of this deck and any additional resources that I might mention. So thank you for being here. And the last person I see is it Bertram Reed?
Yes. How are you, Carlos?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm outstanding. Thank you so much for putting this on. I'm with District 36, and I've belonged to 4 different clubs in the Maryland area, and I'm here to just expand my knowledge, and so I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I'm going to go quickly through the objectives. We're going to discuss best practices for PowerPoint. We're going to talk about accessibility issues. So this is one of the things that I had talked to Kathy about. For me, it's really important, and because I'm getting older, that we talk about how to make sure your presentations are accessible on a variety of levels, not just in terms of what you see in terms of content, some of the visuals, but also as we're getting older, how to make your presentations visually accessible to those who might have visual challenges, as well as those who are legally blind as well. How to apply content design skills. I'm going to actually have a practice session for that. And then I will share some resources for future learning. So let's talk about your own experiences with PowerPoint. And so if you can put in the chat the one word that comes to mind when you think of PowerPoint. So go in the chat box and put the one word that comes to mind. So Connie, I see you put frustrating. Gina, picture, yes. Visuals are really important. Bullet points that Linda shared, all true. Animation, audio, yes. Being able to integrate audio is an important skill, as well as animation, content, having fun. It should be fun, absolutely. And pictures are very powerful, all very true. So I want to talk about, what's the idea behind PowerPoint? And oftentimes people say you can actually kill a whole session if you have too many slides, if you have too much content. So the visual can tell a story and should tell a story. And in fact, you should have ideas behind every particular slide, not just, I'm going to have a slide for having a slide. I have a slide just to have some bullet points. You should have ideas, they should be expressive. And so that's a key learning for today. You have to show ideas and not just slides. And they should be captured quickly, concretely, in 3 seconds. Usually when I teach BPPR sessions, I tell people, you should be able to articulate what your club is about in 27 words or less. Your elevator speech should be in 27 words or less and be communicated in 15 seconds or less. And I tell the story of a woman that I was on an elevator with, and we were going to a TLI session. And one of her colleagues actually got on the elevator. So it really was an elevator pitch. And from the time we went from the first floor to the floor where the TLI was happening, she sold her club to this person that got on the elevator. And she was incredible. So think about it. Your particular ideas, your particular message should be caught immediately, should capture people. The other thing, and we mentioned this earlier by someone that shared what they want to learn, that you should have no more than 6 lines of text per slide. Now, I did violate that rule when I showed you the waiver earlier today, but that's from Toastmasters International. I guess they get to break the rules. But think carefully about how many lines of text. And so we heard earlier from a Toastmaster talking about, sometimes when you have a lot of scientific data, you have to do a lot of bars and graphs. I say, think carefully about what you want to communicate and what's the key point behind that data point. And is it possible to convert that data point into an infographic versus this huge chart? Because charts can communicate information and they're great visually, but oftentimes when you overuse them, they all begin to look the same. So think carefully about what's the key data point, and can you transfer that into a story? Can you transfer that into an infographic that's visually compelling, but gets the point across a lot faster? So think carefully about not having too much text, and think carefully about the visual. The other thing that's really important to think about is contrast in color. See the difference here? What happens when suddenly you draw out, just by simple hue of a color, the main point, and where does your eye go to that which is highlighted in a different color? Now, it's also important to consider people who are colorblind. So the blue and greens, be careful about using those colors combined, and also something that's called color contrast. In this case, we have strong color contrast. So if you have blue and green on top of each other, people who are colorblind cannot see that contrast. In this case, we have a black background and we have white text, we have yellow text. So people who have visual issues or challenges can very easily see this and see the contrast. Now, in terms of font, sort of the PowerPoint gurus will tell us that this particular font is best because of the rounded edges that are easier to read. But you also can, use other fonts that are good. I'm going to show you some examples of that. Be very, very careful about only using maybe 1 or 2 fonts per slide. And overall, you should never use more than 4 fonts in the entire deck. So be consistent, be very consistent, not only in terms of the font use, but also the font that you use in your heading. And use a lot of headers in terms of being able to break up information. So if you have, for example, let's say you want to make 2 points on one slide, which is fine, but you have subpoints, then break it up into 2 different columns. You have one on the left or on the right, but make sure you have no more, as we mentioned earlier, more than 6 lines. But use only 1 font in that case. You're breaking up information that way. Now, some people love to use different sizes for their fonts, and there is no reason for this at all. So the rule of thumb is that you should use 24 and 40. 24 for actual content font and 40 for headers. That's usually the standard that people go through. And the important part is to be consistent in terms of your design. So make them appropriate and make sure that they are visually can be seen, because a lot of people use either too small or too big, and it can be distracting. Especially if you're using a lot of data on your deck slides. I've seen individuals that have so much content on one deck that the font is so small that it's impossible. And they'll say things like, well, I'll send you the deck and then you can see it and you can expand it. And that shouldn't happen. It should be pretty consistent. So 24. The other thing, we talked about this from someone that mentioned this during the introductions about color. We don't need to create a rainbow of color in our design. Keep it very simple, very clean, a lot of white space. And the rule of thumb is use no more than 5 colors in the entire deck in terms of your fonts. And the color works beautifully if you can create the contrast with the visuals. So keep it clean, keep it simple. Maintain the contrast between the text and the background. So you see here, oftentimes it's become very, very popular to use filters in design, which is wonderful. But the important thing is that you need to have that background that creates the contrast between the text and the background. Because what oftentimes I'll see is that people will just try to blend everything in one, and they might even use a different color. But again, if people are colorblind or people have visual challenges, then it gets lost. And so you have to be very cognizant of that. Now, this is really powerful. Use visuals to increase your emotional appeal. Look at the difference between what you see on the left side, the data point, right? 99.8% of California has experienced severe drought. Okay, the message is clear, but there's no emotional appeal. But look at what happens when you create this desert, parched land. See how emotionally drawn into the same data point? So for the Toastmasters that have to present a lot of research, that's great. You have a lot of data, but when you can actually create this kind of infographic with this kind of visual and it appeals to the emotions, it's much more powerful. Now, here's an important rule to consider, the 2-4-8 rule. No more than 1 slide every 2 minutes. No more than 4 bullets per slide. And no more than 8 words per bullet. Okay? So we're going to practice that right now. So in the chat room, I want you to think carefully about how we started today's session. We had an introduction. You told us your name, what club you were with, and what you wanted to learn from today. So try to now translate that information. Some of you shared a lot more than others. Translate that information using this rule, meaning that you have no more than 4 bullets and no more than 8 words per bullet, and see what people come up with. Belong to 3 clubs, very clear, succinct. Oh, great. Jeff actually put that here's what's interesting too. So the word choice you have, it's great if you can either use like what Jeff did, 3 clubs. What does that mean though? Well, Jill put belong to 3 clubs. That's great. The other thing that I recommend is that you always use the active verb tense. So belong to 3 clubs is perfect, Jill. And earned DTM in 1963. I'm just putting that down. Lily, very concrete, member of West Austin 2. Now, for those of you who are VPPR, I don't know if you do this as a practice, but I encourage it in my clubs that when you put your name, you actually put down your credentials too. If you're a DTM, if you're a DL1, a DL3, because when you have guests and they start seeing the credentials, they'll say, oh, what does that mean? And it creates some sense of engagement. So for Lily, perhaps you are a DL5. Put that in your credential. Look at Connie, very good. Would like to improve my PPT presentations, okay. Excellent, Patricia. And if we were doing active words there, we could say serve as treasurer, learn good practices. Shirley, very good. I would actually reverse it with Shirley Mobley, DTM, BPPR, Secretary Treasurer of your club. But see how easy it is to go through the information? It's short, sweet, to the point. There you go, Connie. Excellent. All right, let's move on. Thank you for sharing. Now, presentation skills in terms of PowerPoint decks. Let's have a conversation about this. And if you don't mind unmuting yourself, Connie, I'm going to ask you to share. So in your experience of watching people use PowerPoint, what are some things that you have seen that have not worked for you as an audience member? Connie, do you mind?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
They read the slide and I can already read the slide. So I'm the one with like the guy holding his face in his hands because I don't need you to read to me. So then I'm tuning out.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And then also in terms of what we're having to deal with in terms of Zoom, it's a very different skill set too, because there are a variety of different tools that you can use with PowerPoint that some trainers will do. That they'll do the the whiteboard. They'll do all kinds of ways of being able to actually have people use the slides as a way of being able to engage people, making doodles. Sometimes the technology can work to your benefit, but to me, it's all about the story, and telling people not only your story, but letting people tell their story. and also about the kinds of questions you ask of your audience. So again, this deck, this visual right here definitely tells a story about what may go wrong. And when people just read their deck, you're not necessarily engaging people at all. All right, so I'm gonna ask, John, do you mind unmuting yourself? And John, in terms of what you have witnessed people doing with their PowerPoint decks, what are some examples either of good things you've seen or things that you said, this is not working?
One of those things that I've seen people do was to flood the slide with pictures, with too many things, and then you have arrows going everywhere. A result that the main focus, the main point is not highlighted. And that is one of the lessons that I've learned to avoid, because it just crowds the whole thing. And I'm wondering, as he's talking over it, and I'm wondering, okay, what is this? What part of this picture am I to focus on?
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, John, I just saw a presentation about an hour ago from one of my club members, and he had 4 different images. They were cute. They were really cute. But honestly, I didn't get the point. So the deck slide should stand by itself. Just like you see this visual, you know perfectly well it's telling a story, right? But when you see so many different icons or so many different elements and so many different either photos or animations, what's the point? Is it telling a story? Well, in the mind of the presenter, it is, but not for the viewer, okay? And then Jill, if you would be so kind as to unmute yourself. What about your experience in terms of what you've seen people do with PowerPoint? Some good, some bad, some ugly?
What I usually see is that people are trying to throw as much onto that screen as possible. They're trying to put everything up on the slide, and you'll have maybe everything in 18 or 14 point or whatever. And I admit that I do it sometimes too, when I'm just trying to get a whole lot of information out there, but it's not very readable, and it overwhelms the viewers.
Yes, it is overwhelming and not focused. Very good. And I see Asghar Noor has his hand raised. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, my question is, a lot of the time, a lot of people require me to put a status of a project or a program in one page. Just think about the real estate that have been given to me, very small. Out of that, I have to define the high level goals or deliverables, then the risk, and then through the color, I have to ensure that I'm hitting that thing. Very risk means cost, schedule, performance, and other risk. And as well as how do we overcome some of them in one page? Because the senior executives or very senior level managers only want one page. So I know I'm guilty of that. In order to avoid a lot of questioning, I just draw things in a very smallest possible font so that I do not get, I have to put so many things. There is not that much real estate in that one page. So how do you, address those kind of conflicting requirements and ensure that you deliver your message?
Yeah. Again, that whole notion that if you can put everything in 27 words, no more than 3 ideas per slide deck, and then that you can communicate in 15 seconds, that is sort of the best practice. However, I also know that the requirements that you need to summarize the full deck itself. So there are a couple of things. You can break up the information in terms of maybe having 2 columns and then 4 4 distinct buckets of information, distinct headers for each, but no more than 2 bullets for each of those headers. The other thing, I don't know if you're forced to do PDF versions of the deck, or if you can actually send over the whole slide as a PowerPoint presentation, as opposed to a locked piece like a PDF. So if you can do that, then you can always use animation. So you're actually drawing in information 1 layer at a time, and it's all still 1 page. So I would recommend that as well. But there are ways of being able to use larger buckets with headers and subheaders, but no more than 2 bullet points per header. And hopefully that will work. But the other thing I can recommend is that you can actually have information that float in and the other information float out, so that you'll actually have your focus always on just 1 level of information. You might try that.
I think John may have a point here. He raised his hand. John.
My question is, Carlos, I know we are in different settings and different environments and different audiences. What do you consider to be the optimum time frame for a PowerPoint presentation? Is it 30 minutes, 40 minutes? I also know that it varies from one, whether in the church or academic setting or Toastmasters, but I have seen that even a 30 minutes PowerPoint presentation becomes very boring, particularly when it is not really engaging. So what do you consider, based on this 248 rule and all this number of the slide deck, the number of slides in the slide deck?
Okay, great question. I'm going to answer this question in 2 ways. And I have often been asked this question, what's the maximum number of bullet points that should be on any slide? What are you thinking? Go ahead and put it in the chat, that response. What's the maximum number of bullet points? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Claude says 4, Linda says 4. Bertram says 3, Patricia says, somebody was very generous. Surely you were very generous with 6. The answer I received from someone who was a master at PowerPoint, and I had actually told you earlier that no more than 4, but the answer I received from someone who's a master at PowerPoint said 0. No bullet points. Meaning that you should be able to tell your story, like we have here. 1 story, 1 visual, and I'm going to let you do the talking. Or I'm going to tell you my story and I'm going to have you respond. So that emotional appeal is really, really powerful. So the other thing to answer your question, John, here's the 2-part response. So I've been doing a webinar series for the last month and a half. And I've had speakers do 2 hours, 2-hour sessions with PowerPoint. And they were so good. They were so good that the time went by so fast, we forgot that it was 2 hours. And the other thing that I see as a sign that it was a powerful presentation is I will watch how many people signed in. Like we had 118 people for 1 session, and we only lost 2 people for the 2 hours because they had to do something else. So if you can have your audience so engaged for 2 whole hours, and you're using no more than 10 slides, that's powerful. But the rule of thumb, if you're doing a long session, you should not have more than 10 slides. So hopefully that helps with that response that you were looking for, John. So let me talk quickly about this whole issue about accessibility. You know, I'm getting older. I'm very conscious of what it means to get older and to have bad eyes. I have terrible eyes. So here are some things that we need to think about in terms of challenges for older adults. There are challenges in terms of recalling facts and interpreting facts, in terms of being charged with text that is too densely packed with different types of information at the same time, multitasking, and focusing on important new information. So my recommendation here for accessibility, allow for a lot of white space. Use upper and lowercase letters. And so a lot of people use uppercase letters for their headers, and that's fine. But for the rest of the content, really, you should be using lower and uppercase. Use double-spaced body text when possible, and avoid yellow, blue, and green in close proximity. Our eyes get older, our eyes become weaker in terms of being able to make distinctions in color. So think about that in terms of making your content accessible to as many people as possible. You should also be using alt text. In other words, this particular visual, I will tell you what it is, and it's really easy. PowerPoint lets you do alt text for the visual, so the people who are visually or or blind, impaired or blind, they can actually use their reader and know what's going on right in front of them without any challenges. So it's easy to do, and just it's the right thing to do. So we're going to do a quick little exercise with you guys. And so I want you to think about these 3 questions. What do you like about the design I'm going to show you? What is the content saying to you? And what would you change in terms of the design or the content? So I will call on people. So Patricia, do you mind unmuting yourself? Great. I'm going to show you a slide. Okay. So what do you think about this? What would you change? What is it telling you?
So it does have good graphics, but I think they're too dark.
They're too dark, okay. Yeah. What about the word, the content?
Well, there are circles, circular.
Okay. What about the font size?
The one in the middle is very hard to read, breaking the curve.
Okay. And what do you see in terms of the font type?
The font type, it just kind of changed in the bottom.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? For no reason
Yes.
at all. No reason. Yes. Okay, very good. Excellent. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to have Isis. Do you mind unmuting yourself?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the next slide. What do you see here? What does it communicate to you? What would you change if you were the presenter?
I would move the font or the words away from the graphic because it's hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
The colors look fine. Maybe break it up by having lowercase and uppercase instead of just uppercase.
Yep.
Yep.
I would even put something in a text box to the far left and have it stand out. What about the wording itself? What does it mean to you?
I mean, the graphic doesn't really relate to what it's saying. I might even put like a road, because it's like a road that splits to show kind of divergence instead. Or maybe a brain, because you're talking about thinking. So something more that would relate to the wording.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, the visual's pretty, but doesn't relate to the wording at all. Excellent. Thank you so much, Isis. Okay, and I am going to ask Veronica, do you mind unmuting yourself?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Now, what do you see here? How does it make you feel? What does it say to you?
So what I see is from the picture perspective, I can like the picture in regards to when it talks about enjoy the view, but at the same time, the picture doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, matches what the words are saying. Because to me, I'm falling off a cliff, so that's just me.
Oh. Oh no.
Not necessarily match. That's just me though. And then in addition to that, I would probably make the letters a little bigger as well, or the font size a little bigger.
Okay.
And let's see.
I think here go ahead.
I was gonna say the color looks okay. Maybe I probably would have done more of a white back to just make those, I guess, just stand out the words a little better.
Okay, so white background, probably a different, a larger font.
Yes.
And then, so the gentleman is on top of a boulder, open your mind and enjoy the view. It's action, so that's nice. And
Right.
discover the divergent thinker in you. Again, it's compelling you emotionally somehow. I hopefully he's not going to jump off the cliff, but instead he's just enjoying the view. But
Yes, sir.
okay, thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Carlos.
So I want to go through and summarize the takeaways for tonight. Use consistent themes in whatever you're going to do. You know, PowerPoint has all kinds of themes, all kinds of tricks that they can let us use, which is great. But let me also warn you that you have to be really, really careful about the use of photos. So in relation to the use of photos, it's not a bad idea to actually buy the photos. Let's say for one of the stock image companies like Shutterstock, which tends to be a little cheaper, or iStock. And the reason I'm saying that, because let's say that you want to post, as we are doing today with Kathy's going to post this recording. I have purchased all these photos, okay? And they're not expensive at all. That way, there's no copyright, it's royalty free, and it can be used without any problems. So you have to be really careful. Now, use Toastmasters photos that they provide, which is great, or create your own. These days, the iPhones, all the phones that are, have amazing cameras, create your own, photos that you can implement into the decks. There's nothing wrong with that. And actually, it's a little more compelling, especially for those of you who are in VPPR or VPM. Ask permission of your members to use their image and put their video content in there, put their stories in there into your slides. That itself is very powerful. That your visuals tell the story. Use real people, use real stories, and keep it consistent. Keep things simple and clear, especially in relation to accessibility issues. And finally, adhere to the 2-4-8 rule. And it really helps people sort of see to the content, get rid of the clutter, make things very simple, clear, direct. Less is better. Less is better. And with that, I'm going to thank you for your time, your energy, your dedication. And for all of you who came in from all over the country, I really appreciate your interest in today's session. And I am going to stop there and going to take. And I thank you for your time. And thank you, Kathy, for hosting this and making this possible for District 55, 29, 36, and 27, because I heard of all kinds of districts. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I don't know what it is about this new computer, but I want to thank you, Carlos. You really made good on your promise to show us the beats. Those 12 or 13 points that you gave us, I wrote them all down by hand, but I will send Carlos a list of the email addresses so all of you can get a copy of this wonderful material. And if you would like to see Carlos do another PowerPoint presentation later on in the year, how about a jazz hands?
Kathy's very persuasive.
I have my tricks, okay?
Okay.
And if you don't mind being a part of the photo to show, we had 27 people in this class at one point. But if you don't mind being a part of the photo, how about turn your camera back on and I'm going to take one photo, and that way we'll be able to show what great attendance Carlos has had. This was a great presentation. He will probably be helping teach some of the TLI classes if he can fit it in his schedule, and he does an excellent job. So thanks everybody for attending. Let me grab a quick photo. And if you are a VPPR or you just want to get tips about using social media for your club, Lily Andress Smith is on this call as well. She's teaching the next one at 8:30, so I hope you can join us. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope to see you in the next class. Thanks again, Carlos. This was great.
Super good.
Thank you, guys.